Well, people are still filtering in, but it is 2 o'clock and I want to go ahead and get started. I know that you all are working very hard to keep your nonprofits running and keep everybody happy and thriving as much as you can. So I want to be respectful of your time and go ahead with our presentation today. I am so excited for you all to hear what Kendra has to share with you today. I've gotten a sneak peek at her slides, and there is going to be a ton of practical information that you can start applying to your Facebook fundraising in particular, like today. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you know who I am. My name is Abby. I'm part of the team over at QGive. What we do at QGive is pretty simple. We try to help you all raise more money online. And we do that by providing an online fundraising platform. And while that's a cool, important thing to have, it is only a small part of what you do every day. And that's why we have people like Kendra come in and talk about different subjects, including today, Facebook and how that can work for you. If you are a QGive client and you have any questions about how to apply some of what you're going to learn today to your QGive account, let me know. I can get you in touch with the people who can answer your question if I can't answer it myself. And if you don't work with QGive, this is going to be an awesome session for you too. You'll be able to take everything that you covered today back to your offices or back to your home offices and use it that way. A couple of housekeeping things. We are recording the webinar. I know many of you like to watch these on demand. So yes, we're recording the webinar. I'm going to send you an email with the recording and some extra tools and resources probably tomorrow morning. And if you want to follow along, we are also covering the highlights of this webinar on Twitter and are going to be sharing some of these tips elsewhere. So keep an eye out for that. If you have questions during the presentation, we're going to have lots of time at the end for Q&A. So drop those questions in the question box. I'll keep an eye on those and I will make sure we cover as many of your questions as we possibly can. But before we get started, I really want to hear from you. We have a couple of things we're going to cover today that have to do with Facebook usage, and we'd like to get a grasp of what you're currently doing with Facebook. So the first thing I want to ask is your nonprofit actively using a Facebook page? Do you have that set up? Are you active on there? What are you doing with those Facebook things? Well, it looks like the vast majority of you do have a Facebook page. That is fantastic. That will make it much easier to act on what Kendra is going to cover today. And a few of you have said, no, you don't currently have one. And that's totally fine too. Building a Facebook page is really easy. I've done it. If I can do it, you can do it. And Kendra is going to share some tips today that will make that easier for you. The next question I have is about your Facebook fundraising. Are any of you using Facebook's fundraising tools? Are you seeing some of your supporters set up fundraisers for you? What are your experiences there? It looks like you guys are pretty evenly split between yes and no. So it looks like about half of you are either actively using Facebook fundraising or have used it in the past, and about half of you haven't. And that kind of split is really great to see. If you have been doing Facebook fundraising, Kendra's going to share some strategies you can use to boost that. And if you haven't, she's going to show you some tools you can use to start. So thank you for sharing that with us. That will make this presentation really interesting. The next thing I want to ask you about is Facebook advertising. Do any of you use Facebook advertising? Have you used it before? Are you using it now? I know QGive uses it all the time. We do some really cool stuff with it. Ooh, a lot of you are doing Facebook advertising. I am so glad to hear that. Right now, it looks like between 70 and 75% of you are using Facebook advertising for your campaigns, and about a quarter of you have not started doing that yet, which is really interesting information. And again, we're going to cover some information today that will either help you tweak and improve your Facebook advertising or give you some tools to get started. And the last question is my personal favorite. Have you ever wished that someone could sit down and help you with Facebook advertising? Do you come up with questions? Do you ever kind of wonder if there's a better way to do things? 100% of you have said yes. I'm very glad to hear that because Kendra is a whiz at this. So it looks like a few of you do have a pretty solid grasp on Facebook fundraising, but a lot of you would like to sit down with somebody and get some help with it. So good news, we can help you do that. So what I'm going to do is switch things over to Kendra. She is going to share a ton of information with you that will make your whole Facebook ecosystem run a little more smoothly and a little more effectively. So Kendra, that is all yours.
Thank you so much, Abby, and thanks for teeing up today's webinar with those questions. It's really helpful for me to get a sense of how many of the folks who are dialed into the webinar are using Facebook, have dabbled with Facebook fundraising, and then some other areas that you might want to lean into, like Facebook advertising. Before I jump into things, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that I have a lot of empathy for the nonprofits that are pushed into new and different and difficult directions thanks to this new world of sheltering in place. If you're listening on today's webinar, it's probably because you're thinking about every creative way to drive up donations and to bring your programs and your events to your supporters and to your constituents. So today I want to talk about how you can put Facebook to work for you and for your organization during this particularly crazy time. And many of us are having to adapt our operations in the typical ways in which we do things, which can add a lot of stress and pressure to teams that already felt stretched thin. We know that Facebook is a system of many, many tools and products, many of which are free to use for nonprofits. And I'm going to focus on our free solutions today. So I hear you that you love more advertising support, and that's something for Abby and myself to think about in terms of delivering more content and resources to you. But today I'm going to focus on the free stuff because I know that resources are likely very constrained as is. And as we get going through today's conversation, I'd love to hear from you about how your organization has been impacted by the COVID-19 outbreak. If you're up for it, if you can share some stories about the challenges that you're facing, the biggest issues that you're tackling right now in chat, I'd love to read through those. And if you're open to sharing some of that during Q&A today too, I'd really appreciate that additional insight. So far in our partner management work, we've heard consistently that many organizations are working on how to take the personal connections that they've made and foster an online community with that same demographic. How to reach people's attention when attention might be elsewhere. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. So how do you take up some space to drive conversation? And then what to do when your more normal methods of fundraising have been interrupted, looking at all the events that you might have had on the horizon for this year, everything from galas to auctions to Run Walk Ride events. So I'm going to try to cover today how Facebook can help you address some of these challenges. This presentation will cover tools to help your team collaborate online, how to reach your community during the crisis, and how to raise funds with Facebook, and how to make a successful virtual event on Facebook. First off, right now we know that a lot of teams are hustling to find better ways to communicate and coordinate while having all of their staff work from home. You know, this is a major transition. So I want to show you our tool that personally makes my life and the life of my teammates better, Workplace. Workplace connects entire organizations to discover new and better ways of working together, and most importantly, it's free for nonprofits. So Workplace is like Facebook, but it's separate from your personal Facebook account. It uses many of the same features of Facebook to help teams stay connected and collaborate quickly. And it's what we use here at Facebook to coordinate with our teams company-wide. And this is my main channel of communication with my teammates. We developed Workplace because we see 3 key changes that we believe are driving a shift in how people communicate at work. First, being mobile. You're all familiar with the fact that mobile has fundamentally changed how we communicate and interact daily. It's fast, it's open, it's intuitive, and frankly, it's the norm. Second being millennials. A new generation has joined the workforce, and they've grown up with mobile and Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp, and they communicate through video, emojis, and GIFs, not just voice and text. I can't recall the last time I spent a whole day without sending at least one GIF, and you're probably right there with me. That's now how we express ourselves. Deloitte estimates that this year, 50% of the global workforce will be made up of millennials. And then the third bit here is modernization of our work tools and equipping your organization with tools that meet their needs and expectations in this new work world is vital. So we built Workplace to address some of these changes, to give organizations a communication tool that fits their behaviors and needs. And we didn't anticipate, of course, that most of the global workforce would at one point all be working from home. But the case reason Workplace is definitely even stronger right now, especially if your team is not already using some sort of collaborative tooling beyond email. So you might be wondering, how can Facebook work for me and my organization? There are three pretty straightforward ways in which your organization can use Facebook Workplace to minimize communication challenges quickly. First being broadcast. Workplace lets you share information company-wide via email or live video, uploaded text, shared files, graphic posts, and it's also a way to get quick bottoms-up feedback. So you can share something out and people are notified when a group they're part of has a new post, and it's a quick way to share feedback. Collaboration. Using Workplace, you can manage teams and collaborate by creating departmental and cross-functional groups to disseminate information to specific people and get consensus around particular topics quickly. And that seems to be the name of the game right now, is getting alignment, getting buy-in, and working collaboratively to move forward. And I think a relevant example for my team is all of the work going into Giving Tuesday now, something that pops up and feels like a priority. In a world where we can't all huddle at our desks, how do you take the notion of huddling and building alignment virtually, and Workplace groups allow us to do that. And then automation. You can make organizational processes even more efficient and operationally savvy with things like learning tools, auto translations, app integrations, survey, and goal setting. It allows you to use Workplace as like a one-stop shop for getting a lot of insight and then delivering information at scale. So I'm going to go a little deeper into Workplace tools to give you a better idea of how organizations are using them to get work done more efficiently in this new context. You'll hear me talk about live video a few times today. That lives across our family of apps in different places, and it suits different needs. So live video within the context of Workplace lets you broadcast to your whole organization or a particular team. And before Workplace, many organizations required their coworkers to be physically present to attend events. If you couldn't make an event that was happening halfway across the country, you simply missed out. You hope that someone took really good notes for you to follow up on. So you can use live video to host town halls, internal events, and even business meetings. We regularly see it for CEO communications and to host live training sessions. Our CEO, Mark, uses live video in Workplace weekly to answer questions and deliver important updates to the staff. And live video also enables two-way conversations. You can comment, the person behind the live video will see that and be able to respond to that in line. When it comes to groups, we have two group settings, open and closed. Open groups are useful for posts and updates to the entire organization. You can use promoted posts or pin posts for really important announcements. Anyone visiting the group will see at first glance. And it allows people to join the group and stay in the group if they want to continue to remain in the discussion. On the flip side, there are closed and secret groups. We created these for conversations where you want to be selective about who's involved. Maybe this is a group that you want to ideate and socialize an idea with before you take it to your entire organization. Closed groups are posts are not visible to anyone outside of the organization. but people can see that the group exists and they can request access if they think it's a relevant group for them to participate in. Secret groups are completely invisible to anyone not in the group. So someone will start the group and then select who gets to be invited to participate in the group, and other folks won't know that that group exists. Some of the best groups, especially during this time, are the social groups. The social groups are what's sustaining me right now. You go to workplace to learn and to digest and to share. When I'm not around my teammates, the social sharing is vital to get through the week. So there are some really fun groups that have stood up in the last few weeks within Facebook. Someone started a group called Sad Work from Home Meals, and it's pictures of people trying to make grilled cheese sandwiches and failing miserably. Lots and lots of ramen posts. I have just had basically soup every day for lunch, so that's a pretty boring thing to add to the group, but I live vicariously after everyone else's ideas of lunches. And similarly, there are groups that have useful how-tos. I'm part of a Vegans at Facebook group, and there are lots of posts on how to make your own DIY oat milk. So I haven't tried that yet, but I know that I can go back to that and use it as a reference point. And then there's newsfeed. Similar to how Facebook's newsfeed works, Workplace's newsfeed does the same kind of magic algorithmic delivery of the right information at the right time. So before Workplace, teams were getting information overload over email or chat and making it difficult to know what to prioritize when. Workplace displays updates from your internal groups with key information and messages, and you can actually customize notifications. So I don't get a notification every time someone posts their really sad and pathetic lunch. I don't need to see that and get notified that I should go back to that group and check out, someone's burnt ramen. But I do have notifications enabled for the groups that are most important for me to get my job done every day. So you can customize how you're notified based on the group setting. And the newsfeed algorithm, as we know, as it pertains to your regular Facebook experience, it's the best mechanism we have to surface valuable information, ensuring the most relevant, timely, and interesting information is presented to you first. And the last item on this list is Workplace Chat. So this is a separate app that allows you to instantly message, voice, and video call your team, wherever they're based. You can seamlessly transition from a group chat to a video group call. You can start your instant group call videos in your Workplace Chat with just the click of a button. And we recently launched group video calling for groups of up to 50 people. So you can quickly connect with all of your team members and share information and have a quick conversation. You probably recognize that right now, more than ever, your people, your supporters, your constituents, your beneficiaries, they're online. So the next set of slides, I'm going to walk you through ways in which you can connect with your people. First off, I think it's important to mention that there are two key reasons people give and connect and come to Facebook. First being they come to connect with people that they care about. And the second is that they want to support the causes and the ideas that they believe in. And right now, more than ever, people are coming to Facebook to stay connected and to ask for help or to offer up help, which we think is a good opportunity for nonprofits to come in and present the things that they need or the ways in which they can help. So here are some specific ways we've seen organizations using Facebook to successfully connect their supporters, their volunteers, donors, and beneficiaries during this time. We just talked about groups within the context of workplace. Groups are also a really powerful way for nonprofits to connect with their supporters. It can be a great place to bring together people focused on a particular part of your work. They can also be open, closed, or secret. You can use this group to share files, images, or documents. You can do polls or go live to members of that particular group. They're also a really safe place to test messaging and get feedback before you launch a larger campaign. I often think about groups as housing your power supporters. They feel most closely tied to your mission. It's a safe place, especially if it's a closed group and there is a very clear charter on how that group should be used, so that you can socialize ideas and get feedback from the folks that are going to be either impacted or benefited by what you're rolling out. And when it comes to peer-to-peer fundraising, a group can be a really good way to connect fundraisers so that they can collaborate and share insights into what's working in their own personal efforts. So I've seen some wonderful groups for things like long bike rides, where people share product information about the most comfy bike seat, or the bike shorts that don't ride up, or what flavor of goo is the most interesting flavor of goo. Things that are relevant to that community under the umbrella of your organization. So let someone lean into something that they're passionate about as they support your organization. Also, if you're a health organization, groups become an extremely valuable place for people afflicted by a certain disease or physical ailment to connect with one another and find that mutual support, especially if they're having a hard time getting it in real life right now. And similarly, caregivers. Caregivers right now are hit really hard working from home, and giving them a place to connect with other caregivers just lifts them up and helps them understand that there is a broader community that they can tap into. Basic messenger chat is a tool that can be used to connect one-on-one with people via your page. As you might have experienced already, it can be a very personal way to connect. You can start by turning on page messaging and responding to people manually. And they might message your page from everything to, questions about a health concern to questions about getting support. And you can use that as an inroad to cultivate a deeper relationship with them. And for all the organizations that are spread thin right now, you can turn on page messaging to respond to people automatically. So things like greetings, instant replies, and away messages can give you a valuable buffer. Or if you see this as being a primary way to reach out to people and to stay connected with them, you can build out an entire automated experience that uses AI to answer questions. So that's kind of the next level, depending on your investment in Messenger. For that kind of custom experience, likely you'd want to engage a third-party developer to build, manage, and maintain it. Live video has seen a significant spike in usage during COVID-19. If you are on chat, I would love to hear about some of the things that you've seen in the wild and that have resonated with you. Like, what are some really good examples of live video that have you hooked? But nonprofits are using live right now to bring their audiences timely updates, status reports, and even entertainment. They're also using the donate feature to turn on fundraising efforts. And I'm going to get into that a bit more deeply throughout the course of this webinar, how to use live to effectively fundraise. Here's a tip also when it comes to your content strategy to connect with people. It's so easy to just ask. Don't hesitate to ask your supporters what they need from you right now, what they want to see from you. That's the beauty of polls and groups and even page posts. Reach out and ask folks what they need from you right now and use that to build your content strategy. We know that every nonprofit has been impacted by COVID-19. I think it's important to tell the story of how you've been impacted and be open and transparent about how critical fundraising is for your organization right now. I'm going to walk through some tools on Facebook that will help incentivize people to fundraise and give. So during any crisis moment, we see this productive cycle of fundraising happening on Facebook, where nonprofits, brands, influencers, and people come together to represent the need and the urgency to give. There's this incredible relevancy and shareability around fundraising posts. It's what we call a meaningful social interaction. One of my favorite examples from 2020 is from the Australian brush fires, which seems so long ago, but no, that was the crisis that helped kick off the year. Celeste Barber is a famous Australian comedian. If you haven't followed her on Instagram, give her a look. She's hilarious. Will bring a lot of joy to your daily life. She started a fundraiser on Facebook that ultimately raised over $31 million for the NSW Rural Fire Brigade. It initially raised $28 million in just 4 days from donors all over the world. And if you were to take a look at the feed of that page fundraiser, it was so heartwarming and lifted you up, because there were all these people who were otherwise very disconnected in life coming together to rally and support for Australia. And so many other brands and public figures shared this fundraiser, and it became this very diverse network of voices that encouraged people to give. There are 2 ways to fundraise on Facebook. The first is by doing your own fundraising activity via your nonprofit's Facebook page. And the second is by having supporters create fundraisers and ask for donations on behalf of your organization. Donations from both streams get aggregated through the same payout and processing system, but I think it's important to call out that these 2 pipelines are separate, because ideally your fundraising strategy addresses generating activity from both. Now I'm going to walk you through the specific fundraising tools. The first being fundraisers. Any person on Facebook can use fundraisers to create a dedicated fundraising campaign for eligible nonprofit organizations. They'll set a fundraising goal, invite their friends, and this can be a great multiplier for online fundraising, having other people go out and ask their community to support you. We know that's the beauty of peer fundraising. Nonprofits can also create fundraisers for themselves through their page. This can be great if you have a timely and specific fundraising ask with a goal that you need to hit. Thinking about what's on the horizon, Giving Tuesday Now is a wonderful awareness moment to tap into. If you haven't yet tested creating a fundraiser page, use some of the Giving Tuesday Now messaging and build your page fundraiser and see if that motivates your supporters to make a donation. The donate button, you've probably seen this across a number of different places on Facebook, but nonprofits can add a donate button to posts, making it really easy for people to make a general donation just with 1 click. And then live video, adding a donate button to live video is a dynamic and engaging way for nonprofits, supporters, or public figures to fundraise for a cause. And we recently made updates to this feature to make it more accessible on iOS and Android. So going a step deeper into some of these fundraising tools. If it feels like a lot to ask your supporters or a local influencer or small business that supports your organization to fundraise for you on Facebook, then consider starting your own page fundraiser. Tell the story of how you're impacted by COVID-19. Like if you've had to cancel critical events that are vital to your fundraising efforts, tell that story in a page fundraiser and reach out to your community and ask them to donate. And if people can't donate, ask them to share. There is a strong correlation between shares and dollars raised. Think about the beauty of the Facebook newsfeed and sharing content. The distribution opportunity is really strong with shares, and you're likely to inspire people who otherwise weren't connected to your cause to make their first donation. When it comes to activating your supporters to fundraise for you, the Instagram donation sticker is one of the lightest lifts because it's fun, it's ephemeral, and the total amount raised isn't public. We know that in a number of different ways, the fear of not raising a lot of money can play into people's openness to fundraising. So with the Instagram donate button, you can raise $0 or you could raise $100. The important thing is that you're showing your care and support of a nonprofit. So the donation sticker on Instagram stories allows you to essentially create a 24-hour fundraiser. You create a story that shows why you're fundraising, who you're fundraising for and why, and then you add the donation sticker. And if you haven't already done this, you can also add the donate button to your Instagram profile page, which is an easy thing to call out on your Instagram posts when asking for donations. Say, visit our profile to donate. And if you're curious about payment processing and reporting, Instagram donation features are also aggregated in the same payout and processing system as your Facebook donations. Some really exciting stuff that is new on Instagram that I wanted to share. Once a supporter donates to a nonprofit fundraiser on Instagram stories, it will, or Instagram Live, also hot off the press, you can go live on Instagram now and add a donation sticker. So the same thing applies to Facebook Live. You can go live on Instagram, bring something fun to the table. The joy of Instagram Live is that it is very obvious at the top of your sticker tray when someone is live, so it does command a lot of attention. And adding the donation sticker is a great way to draw visibility to an organization. And the corresponding benefit of donating now is that it unlocks an I donated sticker. So this is a delightful way to inspire people to make a donation because they get to use a sticker that otherwise other folks who haven't made a donation can't access. Any person or organization can use the donation sticker on Instagram Live right now. And for Instagram Live creators, there is a more info tab that shows how much the live video has raised and who has donated. So it's also a good way to thank supporters and donors. This is an example of adding donate buttons on posts. I get a lot of questions from nonprofits saying, when should I use a donate button on a post? You know, you might have a commitment to posting twice a day. How do you think about balancing the call to donations to delivering content without having a corresponding ask? My feedback for that, and probably a lot of other questions that you might have during our Q&A session today, is to test. If you have content that you think really resonates, and there's someone either behind a video or behind a piece of content that is able to share the story of the impact of your organization, that's a good time to ask for a donation. If you're giving a heads up about, you know, hey, we're canceling this this auction, or you know, we're putting the pause on this program, it's more of a logistical update, you wouldn't add a donate button. But if you're showcasing the important work that you're doing, it's natural for you to also solicit donations in that post. People on Facebook and verified and unverified pages can now go live with the donate button. And an exciting new update to share this week. I've got lots of exciting updates to share today. This is like really good timing, Abby, for this webinar because a lot of the stuff is brand new this week. But now the person behind the live video can choose to collect donations during their live video using the donate button, or they can attach an existing Facebook fundraiser on iOS and Android. So this includes fundraisers for a nonprofit that were created by the host, someone else, or another page on Facebook. So I mentioned a little bit earlier that one of the challenges in getting folks to start a fundraiser is the concern about not raising a significant amount of money. If your nonprofit's page creates a fundraiser, then you encourage your supporters, your local influencers to fundraise using that page fundraiser. So they're not coming from a place of $0, but they're driving a traffic and donations to a page fundraiser that potentially encapsulates a lot of your fundraising efforts. You can imagine this working well for Giving Tuesday Now. If your page creates a Giving Tuesday Now fundraiser, getting all of your supporters who are comfortable doing live video to point to that page fundraiser instead of starting from $0. I love the use of the donate button in live, especially when someone really charismatic is on the other end and they're willing to do something like a challenge in order to incentivize donations. The screenshot that you see right now on the slide is of a gentleman named Officer Daniels, and he has gone live many times for an organization called Humanizing the Badge, and he'll do fun challenges like hot pepper eating challenges. Based on the number of dollars that he raises, he'll up the ante with the spice level. Or, you know, if he hits $2,000, he'll dye his hair bright pink or give himself a mohawk. So easy, fun, light things that would prompt people to kick in $5, thinking of it coming from almost their entertainment budget versus their donations budget, is a great way to unlock additional dollars. Some additional live things that we've seen that have worked really well in the last few weeks throughout this pandemic. We've seen so many musicians and DJs go live on Facebook with massive tune-ins. People love the chance to be part of a connected dance party hosted by local or national DJs, or musicians can go live from their living room and just jam out. If you have someone connected to your organization that is a really good guitarist, ask them to go live, play a couple of songs and see if they can collect a few tips, donations for your organization. If you had planned to host a bike ride or a run as part of your event strategy, find out if you can enlist the help of a fitness influencer to lead a bike ride or treadmill run for your followers. So how do you connect the dots between something that participants were going to get involved in with something that they can do from home, and how do you have someone relevant leading that live experience? If you're hosting a gala, give attendees a chance to put on their finest black tie outfits and share photos that juxtapose being dressed up and dressed down while at home. For the 50% of folks on the webinar who have used Facebook fundraising, I know that it's very challenging to understand your performance insights. You've had to download transaction reports and likely do some creative pivoting to understand the trends of your donation activity. So I'm really excited to share with you that we've just recently launched Fundraiser Insights. What you can see with Fundraiser Insights is the number of fundraisers created for your nonprofit on Facebook. This will include fundraisers that have not yet raised money, so it gives you that full picture of view of fundraiser creation activity. It also shows you the number of donations that your nonprofit has received through fundraising. You can see this data on a daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis, starting from January 30th, 2020, when we first got this tool up and running. And you can access this dashboard within the page insights section of your nonprofit page. So it helps to jump in and see where you are as a baseline. It also becomes a better tool for forecasting based on trends. What can you expect to bring in from Facebook, and what are some tests and campaigns that might actually move the needle on your fundraising activity? This allows you to track the impact of the fundraising solicitation campaigns that you bring to the table. Now I'm going to get into the mechanics of live video on Facebook. There are two ways to go live on Facebook. You can use a phone with a Facebook app installed, or you can connect a separate camera to a computer with streaming software. I'd recommend using a phone to go live if you are on the go. If you don't have access to extra equipment like a computer, a camera, a microphone, if you don't need to add on-screen graphics or switch between cameras. On the other side, I would recommend using a camera and streaming software if you want to maximize video and audio quality, if you want multi-camera views, if you prefer to use graphics or other advanced features, and if you have access to equipment like a computer, a camera, a microphone, etc. I'm not going to read through all of these directions, especially because you're going to get a copy of this webinar at the end, but I wanted to show you how simple it can be to add a donate button to a live video using Live Producer or desktop. Just 4 steps. So you can go live on a page, in a group, or to an event on Facebook. Going live via your page will give you access to more tools and capabilities rather than going live on a group or event. It also probably will reach the broadest set of people. And for the folks that are most engaged with your page, they'll get a notification that your page is going live. If you are bringing something to the table that is not necessarily a fundraising ask, but a relevant informational session or a closed group, close-knit Q&A type experience, you can go live to members of a group. It's very important to be specific about the start time and the duration of the event that you're live streaming on Facebook, and to plan accordingly, and be open and upfront about how much time people should expect to reserve to participate in your live video. Always use a tripod and basic mics if possible, even if you're using a mobile phone. There are very inexpensive phone stands and mics that you can buy directly online. And a camera like a Mevo works well because it's directly integrated to the Live API, but there are many others you can choose from. And here's a snapshot of ways to schedule your live video, either from desktop or mobile. So if you haven't seen Live Producer or going live from your phone, here's a couple of screenshots of what it looks like. Carrying on with all of the new stuff that I'm sharing today, I mentioned that you can now attach a fundraiser to a live video to drive donations towards a specific fundraiser. Also very relevant to any transition from a physical event to a virtual event is off Facebook support. So supporters who don't have a Facebook account can now tune into a live video without needing to log into Facebook. And I've heard that in the past, it's been a deterrent to do live because you might only be accessible to a portion of your audience. Well, now you're accessible to 100% of folks. You just need a link to share with them. And then viewers with limited internet can now choose to do audio only as an option to tune into the live. And you can also use automatic closed captions for the hearing impaired and for those who prefer to read while they're experiencing your live. Now getting into some content best practices. Videos that inspire friend-to-friend or person-to-person interactions tend to get more distribution. I always recommend having an active chat moderator during your live broadcast because it can play an important role in fostering conversation and driving up interactions. Think about the more interactions that you inspire with your live video, the more news feeds you're likely to reach because you're tapping into the power of conversation and folks sharing your live video. Don't forget to promote your upcoming virtual event through all available marketing before and during your broadcast. Facebook events, email, Instagram, Facebook stories. My recommendation is, given how noisy it can be right now on social media, hit your supporters over the head about something that they should be tuning into. I will say on the paid front, the ability to promote a live video while live is only available to Blue verified pages, and it is not suitable for live streams shorter than a half hour. Pinning great comments to the top of the chat and highlighting comments via graphics on screen is another good way to recognize your supporters and continue the conversation. If you have someone in front of the camera or behind the camera that can acknowledge people joining, it's a great way to make them feel special. I've been joining a lot of Instagram live workout videos in lieu of having access to workout classes around my home. And whenever I join one and the fitness instructor calls out my name, I'm like, oh, I guess I better stick around for this entire class and do the work. Post relevant links and stats in the chat, because this takes off some of the burden of your host from having to memorize things like key data points or more technical or scientific information. So if there's stuff that's important to communicate and your host is concerned about representing it accurately, add it to the comments, add it to the caption of the live video. If you have anyone notable in your network, whether it be a local news broadcaster or sports figure, encourage them to join the broadcast to engage with people in the comments. That's a really cool surprise and delight thing too to offer up. And if you're using Live Producer, you can bring in guests into your broadcast by using platforms like BeLive, Stage 10, EasyLive.io. There are some options. We'll make sure to send links to access these options in the follow-up. And video conferencing software providers like a Zoom or a BlueJeans also allow you to broadcast live to Facebook with multiple participants. So let's talk about risk. This is probably the biggest reason that I hear from nonprofits who are reluctant to do a live video. So let's talk about some of the ways that you can mitigate that risk. The most important step you can take to ensure a successful live event is to establish a stable internet connection. Before I got on this webinar, I tested out my home Wi-Fi versus my phone's personal hotspot. The personal hotspot went out, so I'm doing this webinar via my phone because my Wi-Fi was cutting out, and that was the right decision to make. At least I hope it was the right decision and you guys have heard all of this webinar. Also acknowledge any errors and respond to your audience. People are going to be quick to call out if something is not working. They'll say, I can't hear you, I can't see you, videos cut out. So take it in your stride and comment, hey, I know we're having technical difficulties, thanks for bearing with us. And then pin that so that no one else has to comment with that same feedback. I know that music continues to be a concern for nonprofits. Everyone wants to have some background noise to the live video if it's not a pure conversational Q&A. And the use of commercial music without appropriate clearances can sometimes result in your stream being removed from Facebook. So this can happen accidentally if your stream includes background music. We have a massive library of music and sound effects that is free and globally licensed. So we'll make sure we share that out too, so that you can pick and choose a soundtrack that you know won't trip up your broadcast. Some more tips about how to have fun with live. Prime the person behind the camera to explicitly ask for donations. The amount of live videos I've watched that have the donate button, and yet no one within the live video refers to the call to action to donate, you'd be surprised. We do see a correlation between asks for donations on air and people clicking the donate button. Again, if you can hit your supporters over the head with what you hope for them to be doing on your behalf, the more that's going to resonate. Use other products to promote the live video. And if it feels kind of wacky to use video to promote video, just understand that that's the nature of how people digest information and retain things these days. So video teasers. I love a good little teaser or trailer that helps me visualize the upcoming live that I might be incentivized to tune into. And if you feel uncomfortable asking for donations, you're trying to balance out your donation asks, think again about the power of sharing and how that can help with donation solicitation. So if you're asking people to donate, ask them to share. Another thing when nonprofits ask, well, how can we possibly translate what would have been a black tie event or a gala or an auction onto Facebook using Facebook Live? My advice is to have fun with it. Almost exaggerate the fact that you are hosting from home. So what is that dichotomy between getting glammed up and having, you know, half a bag of empty Cheetos next to you? So use props, use costumes, acknowledge that we're all operating in a bit of a weird time, and have some fun with it. Here are some best practices when starting a fundraising campaign, whether it be through a live video, a page fundraiser, or a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign. Building momentum around your fundraiser. We've gone over that sharing is strongly correlated to dollars raised. Most shares are done by non-donors, but their shares do make a difference. So ask supporters who can't donate to share the fundraiser instead. Communicate, 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 and communicate impact. Communicate impact through regular posting to your fundraiser and share updates. When you post in your fundraiser, people are notified. So maybe someone's been invited to donate to your fundraiser and they haven't donated yet. But if you post and it's something really compelling and they click on the notification and see your fundraiser, maybe that'll make the difference in them actually making a donation to your page fundraiser. And you're all nonprofit professionals, you know the power of thanking and celebrating donors along the way, especially as you work towards certain milestones. So thank people for their donations and for sharing your fundraiser. So to do a recap, utilize tools such as groups and Messenger to connect with your community, connect with your team using Workplace for Good, continue raising funds for your organization through tools like Live Donate, Instagram Donate Sticker, and Facebook fundraisers. And then consider running some ads or boosting posts in order to amplify your organization's work. And that might be a Facebook 2.0 conversation that we can bring to you in the future. This is a small set of resources that Abby will recap and share out with you. There's even some brand new stuff that we launched yesterday. Our our toolkits. There's one for Giving Tuesday Now, including graphic assets, recommendations for content and calls to action. We have a nonprofit COVID-19 resource page, and then a really robust online fundraising training. So if you want to go a step deeper into our tools, I recommend that you navigate through those modules. Turning it
Thank
back over to you,
you.
Abby.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have a ton of questions. I'm really excited to dig into them.
Great.
So I did want to ask, it seems like there's a little bit of confusion about how things work, whether you are using your Facebook page or a standard Facebook profile. Are there notable differences in how you run a Facebook Live or how you add a donate button based on whether you're using a page or a personal profile?
Yeah, well, the beauty is that people and pages can now go live and use a donate button. I think the key difference is between the publisher. So perhaps I manage a page on Facebook that is the New Haven Food Bank. If I were to go live via my Kendra Sinclair Facebook profile, my friends would potentially see it in their newsfeed, and it would be more of a personal, direct appeal. My friends would know it's something that's important to me, and they would make a donation more to me versus the food bank in terms of that affiliation. If I go live via my Facebook page, being the food bank page, then followers who are engaged will get a notification, and other folks might see it in their newsfeed, and they would understand because they're already connected to the food bank as to why they should make a donation. So the main difference is the publisher. In terms of the technical components of going live with Donate, it is very similar, the process of opting in to go live and selecting the donate button. And in the follow-up resources, we'll have very prescriptive step-by-step guides on how you would go live and add the donate button, whether you're using a phone or your computer.
Perfect. So that's a good delineation between a personal profile and then a page. Can you help us understand the difference between a regular page and then a blue verified page?
Yes, so blue verified pages are largely media entities. So if you were to go on Facebook and look for Justin Bieber, we would want to make sure that you got connected. I'm sorry for using a Justin Bieber example. The first one that came into mind. You want to be connected to his real page, not a fake page that a fan had set up, or a fan page not knowing that it wasn't the authentic voice of Justin Bieber. So we've added blue badges to pages to inspire confidence for folks looking to connect with notable public figures. And nonprofits, because they don't quite fit into that media bucket, will not have the blue verified page or check mark.
That is very helpful. So I had a question about the requirements for getting a donate button. I got a question from Mara. She said her organization used to have a donate button, but rules were changed. So I know there's been some new legislation around requirements for fundraising. She said that they got instructions that they needed to sign up for Facebook payments, which requires some documentation, including the CEO's birthday. However, they're a volunteer-run organization and they don't have one CEO or president. Do you have any recommendations around how they should go about getting that paperwork, what they can do if they don't have a CEO or president?
Yes, I would in that scenario. Our payments onboarding flow is a series of checks and balances to ensure that people can only donate to verified nonprofits. What we're trying to prevent is some organization that's not actually a nonprofit using the goodwill of people and the Facebook fundraising tools to raise funds in a duplicitous way. So we validate that any organization that's trying to onboard is in fact a 501c3, which is why we asked for some of that information. I recommend referencing one of the senior stakeholders within the organization and applying. And if you get stuck or get caught up with the payments team, explaining over email, and we have a form. You'll likely hear from the payments team if there is a problem with onboarding, explaining that situation and getting a recommended workaround from there.
That is really helpful. I know that has caused a lot of confusion, so Mara, you're not alone. When that new legislation was passed, a lot of people had to change their processing, so that is definitely a question that has come up a lot. So I hope that was helpful. All right, Tracy had a really great question. She asked if you could go a little more into the privacy settings for groups. Her organization is thinking about setting up a group for parents of their pediatric patients that they serve, but they are concerned about HIPAA laws and how that might work in a Facebook group.
I've seen some organizations with similar intentions in getting a group set up that is adjacent to the health space. And so what they do is they use the groups about section to put forward all of their HIPAA related kind of rules and regulations. Essentially, I look at the groups about section as a place to represent their charter, do's and don'ts, the rules of the road when using that group. Similarly, you can make a post that's more in detail and pin that post so that everyone understands the expectations in using that group. And even before someone joins the group, you can set up a series of questions to give permission to people to join the group. It's a good way to collect some data and some insights about the folks who are interested in becoming members of the group, but it's also a good opportunity to lay the foundation for the expectations you have from the group member. So you can say, by joining this group, I confirm that, X, Y, Z, question mark, and then they have to write yes if they want to be part of the group. So there are a lot of steps that you can take to lay out those expectations very clearly.
That is very helpful. I know I've had to answer lots of questions to join lots of Facebook groups, so
Sure.
that's a really handy thing. All right, so I have a few questions, all kind of related to the same thing. So first, I'll ask, is there a way to connect with Facebook donors who don't have information connected to their account? So Connie is interested in sending out thank you letters or thank you emails to people who have donated, and she is curious about how to do that if a person's information is not tied to their profile.
Yes, I think what Connie's probably describing is the fact that when someone makes a donation, they can opt in to sharing their email address with a nonprofit. Most people choose not to share their email address with the nonprofit. And so there is a challenge in connecting with them off of Facebook. What I do see is a lot of nonprofits using Facebook thanking, the opportunity to go into a fundraiser as the page and post to recognize the fundraiser creator, commenting on the donation posts to recognize the donors. I understand that that is a bit of a lift to be able to do that. And we are thinking about ways to make the thanking process more streamlined, to make it more efficient and more accessible for nonprofits to try to do this at scale.
Very cool. Thank you. I can also chime in a little bit. I know QGive has an integration with Facebook fundraisers. In that situation, your Facebook fundraiser and your peer-to-peer participants are tied together, so you might be able to reach out that way. Kendra, are you guys working with, I know you guys worked with QGive to do Facebook fundraisers. Are there any best practices around Facebook fundraisers and using it with other tools, like CRMs maybe?
Yeah, that's a really good call out, Abby, the integration with QGive. So because the fundraiser originates from the QGive platform, you do have information about the fundraiser creator. And I think that the two platforms can work really well together when it comes to segmenting the audience and incentivizing folks to do things a little differently. I've seen organizations throw out fun different challenges for everyone that's maybe connected to an upcoming bicycle event. For all the folks that have created a fundraiser via QGive, if they can raise $200 within Facebook in a week, potentially they get a cap and a t-shirt. You have all the information about the creator on your site. So what are some things that you can incentivize them to do differently on Facebook to ramp up their fundraising efforts with all of the information that you have on your side? So I think there are definitely times when the two platforms can work well together, especially when you have a step more granular detail on the QGIF side.
Absolutely. And it seems like you're getting some people's attention because I have a couple of questions about how long the setup process takes if a nonprofit is looking to go through the process of setting up a Facebook fundraiser. How long does that process take on average?
Do you mean through the QGIve platform if they're creating a campaign, or if they're trying to get hooked up with Facebook fundraising from the get-go?
Getting hooked up with Facebook fundraising just from the get-go.
So yeah, there are a few different steps within Facebook fundraising that I can lay out in terms of expected timeline. Right now, we have a lot of nonprofits trying to onboard onto Facebook fundraising because there is that additional need to raise funds wherever you can. And our payments team managing that inbound has a significant delay, but we're trying to push those through. I would expect 1 to 2 weeks.
Okay.
However, to get your application processed and approved, when it comes to when you're already using Facebook fundraising and setting up a fundraiser campaign, you can start a page fundraiser with like 4 clicks. It's very straightforward to get a page fundraiser up and running. It's one of the simplest things you can publish to your page. And then on the QGIve side, if you would like to use the integrated fundraisers, I think you would reach out to the QGIve team, and we have about a week turnaround on the Facebook side to get clients up and running with the integration.
Okay. And it sounds like a lot of the requirements, I know for the QGIF side, and it sounds like for the Facebook side, you need to be in the United States. Are there options for international users, or should they be trying to find a different solution?
Depends on where the nonprofit is located. So we do enable fundraising in a number of different countries in Europe. Right now for Canada and Australia, we facilitate fundraising via the PayPal Giving Fund, which means that PayPal acts as our donor advised fund in issuing payments. It's not a direct integration with Facebook. And to use the fundraiser API, you do need a direct integration at this time. So nonprofits who are leading fundraising events from Canada and Australia are unfortunately not able to use the API at this time.
Okay. I know there are tons of different legal requirements across different international communities, and I know that is something that the whole nonprofit industry is trying to look at and tackle. So it's really cool that you guys are kind of on the cutting edge there. I'm going to switch tack for my last question from the fundraising to a really interesting question from Elizabeth, who is looking for ideas for how to interact with people using live video. So she is the social media coordinator for their organization. She's having to work from home, and she is looking for ideas that will help her connect people to the mission and the work that they're doing while she is not actually on site at their facility. Do you have any ideas for content that she could use?
So I'm trying to get this scenario straight. So there is a facility where important work is being done.
Yes, so I believe so. So they're not at the, yes, there is. She just chimed in and said, yes, there is a facility, but she is not currently able to be there. She is having to work from home.
So that is, I mean, it's a common scenario. I think nonprofits are finding themselves in that the folks who manage the social presences are a step removed from the important work that's being done. There is a way to offer up a live with experience. So we can imagine someone going live from their home describing the situation in a facility. And if there are other boots on the ground where someone can be on the other side of the live and it becomes a conversation, that person can showcase the area that they're operating within. That's a good way to tie in the social media manager with the work that they're trying to represent. Right now, you can only do that using a couple of different pieces of software, but we are working to make the live with product experience more accessible.
Very cool. There are so many cool ideas that I've had just from sitting in this session. I know a lot of you are getting some ideas just based on the questions you're asking. I just had a really fun conversation with someone about bunny yoga. So you guys are already getting your creative juices flowing. I'm so excited to see what you do. Kendra,
Sign me up
thank you
for
so
yoga.
much. Oh my gosh, bunny yoga. I already went and followed them. I'm so excited.
Great, please.
I am so thankful, Kendra, for you. Thank you for sharing with us today. I know you are busy. I know you are seeing a lot of nonprofit activity on Facebook, and I'm so thankful that you were able to sit with us and share some best practices. Thank you. And
Okay, so
everyone else, thank you for being here. You have been so engaging and so fun to talk to. I know you are working through a lot right now. I know you are trying to get creative and stay grounded all at the same time, and you're doing it in a period of uncertainty, and you are doing a great job. We are so proud of you. Please let us know how we can help you if you need help. Keep an eye on your inbox. I'm going to send you this recording. I'm going to send you all of the links that Kendra referenced in her presentation. I'm also going to send you a couple of resources from the QGIve team that will help you online. And we will get that to you either late this afternoon or early tomorrow morning. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great Thursday. You are killing it. You are doing a great job. We will see you soon. Have a good day.
thank you.